Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your Monday edition of the TraderMerlin Show. A pretty exciting one. If you're a sports fan, this weekend was pretty darn good, at least for Sunday. The Ravens game wasn't all it was cracked up to be, but that 49ers Detroit Lions game, what a fantastic game. Of course, I'm happy with the output, and I really wanted to cheer for the Detroit Lions, but honestly, I can never cheer against my team. So I thought I would pull some takeaways from that. I know we don't want to turn this into a sports show and gloat about the Niners or Brock Purdy and dispel more of the haters, but I do want to talk about parallels between professional sports and what you and I do every day, which is trading and investing. And I thought the topic was pretty good. It says trading, stick to the plan. Now, I will tell you, for our 851st Trader Merlin show, I had some challenges. Of course, I used AI to get some graphics going for today's show, and I saw this one. I said, show me a picture of, 49ers winning and all, and I thought that was a good one. I was, I liked the picture, but check this one out. I thought this is a pretty good one, too. I said, put me at the game celebrating the 49ers victory. That one was good. And then the final one, which I was going to use this one, but it made my arm look a little weird. I don't know, it just felt weird. But so I decided not to use those. So I'm going to stick with the first one, which is the 49ers celebrating. And as Big Eb says, you were worried at the half. I had about 20 people at my house for the game. You can ask every single one of them. I was not worried at the half. I said, look, we are a second half team. 49ers are clearly a second half team. And one thing that the Niners always seem to do good is make significant adjustments. And if you watch the first half of that game, so some of you may not be sports fans, the Niners were slight favorites to beat the Detroit Lions, although Lions were a very good team, very young. They'll be back for sure. But the first half was awful. I mean, Niners looked terrible. We just didn't get any drives going. Detroit was running all over our defense, and it was embarrassing. But, when you're down that much, it was 24-7 at the half, which was a pretty ugly deficit to be down 17 points. I was a little bit nervous. At least knowing we're down that much, but I had full faith that the team could come back. What needed to happen was changes need to be made, which is why I titled the show Trading Stick to the Plan. So almost all of us have been in a situation where you go into a trade and you have your opponent all measured up. And in this analogy, our opponent is simply whatever security it is that we're trading. So if I go into a trade on, let's say, natural gas, which is just almost a historic low, it's 3.5-year lows right now with natural gas, I go in there, I'm going to look at the chart of natural gas, I'm going to look at some of the fundamentals of it, and know that security, the components of whatever it is, to the best of my ability. And I will have a plan in place, entry, stop loss, price target, and all these different factors as to why I entered that position. Now, if things start to go wrong, you have to reevaluate what you're doing. What are the areas that are causing me to lose in this specific trade, or in this case, an example I'm doing it on, the 49ers game? Why were the 49ers getting run over by Detroit? Well, number one, we couldn't stop the run. First half was just run. They just kept running the ball down the Niners' throat. We're killing us. We also didn't get much from the defensive side as far as pressure on the quarterback. The second half adjustment that was made was stop the run. And all of a sudden, they went back to their air game. So we stopped the run, then they go back to the air game, and all of a sudden you're forcing them into passes, and a lot of those were incomplete. They were much more contested passes. So they made slight modifications to their plan at halftime, and all it took was a couple little sparks, a couple little catalysts for the Niners to really surge. I don't know if you guys saw the catch by Brandon Ayuk, which I don't know how ESPN called it the number 2 play of the day. It was hands down the number 1. It rivals the Odell Beckham Jr. catch against the Dallas Cowboys, where he basically was laying fully horizontal over behind his head and caught it. It bounced off a guy's face mask. He was fully horizontal, airborne, and caught it off the guy's face mask, and just one of the best catches I've ever seen. That momentum changed everything, and from that, a little bit of hope, a little bit of optimism for the Niners, and we had some defensive stops, and then it kind of kept on pushing, and next thing you know, Brock Purdy, who is Mr. Irrelevant in the NFL draft. We had a very unique situation happen yesterday. You had Jared Goff, who was the number 1 overall pick in the draft, versus the last overall pick in the draft. That the worst versus the first. I mean, kind of a great, David versus Goliath thing. And granted, Brock Purdy has tremendous resources around him, but he did what he had to do. He was amazing during that game, and I just don't understand all the hate that is around him. Now, Tom sent me some very good, not to cheer for the Niners or Taylor Swift team. No, I'm not. You can't cheer for Taylor Swift. I mean, come on. If you look at the Niners game, Tom, you sent me a really good email, and you're right. Dan Campbell made some serious mistakes, but that's in his nature, right? It is in his nature to push, and he takes chances, right? He went for it twice on fourth down against arguably the number one defense in the NFL, number two or 102 defense in the NFL. So if you go fourth down and you don't make it, it's not a good thing for your team. They did that twice and failed. They also didn't kick a field goal that they should have kicked because they were aggressive. And, those little decisions, which are part of his plan. Dan Campbell's plan was to be aggressive, receive the kick first, right, to take those chances right up, and keep pushing. Don't kick it on a fourth down. Go for it. That was his plan. He stuck to it. It backfired because the defensive side, the Niners defense, came to play in that second half, and all of a sudden, all those little mistakes start to bubble up, and momentum shifted greatly. So at the end of the day, we were left with a great game. At the end of the first half, most people were waving the Detroit flags. I like watching Eminem flip off the crowd. I like Sauce Gardner taunting the 49er fans like, bye-bye, go home, we're beating you. And all of a sudden, eating a giant slice of humble pie and choking on it. Pretty awesome. Daryl says, take your profits. I'll tell you what, if Detroit could have ended that game at halftime, I'm sure they would have taken that option. I thought it was a great game. I'm looking forward to a Super Bowl in Vegas against the Kansas City Chiefs. I saw Twitter had a poll that said, who are you voting for? And California is voting for the 49ers. You had Missouri voting for Kansas City. And then the rest of the country going, can we just have them both lose? Come on, how do you not pick Brock Purdy? Is this the underdog story of a lifetime? He's too small. He's got small hands. He can't throw. He can't run. He's got bad accuracy. And all of a sudden he is setting NFL records and squashing people like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, but we'll see how he does about Patrick Mahomes. So, going to be a great one anyway. So, let's see. What do I got? My first ever 49ers game, Candlestick. Oh, man, that was a good one. Candlestick was so much fun. And by the way, you know that in that game where Dwight Clark caught the catch from Joe Montana, Harold was one of the greatest events of the game. Everybody talks about that catch. What they don't talk about is Joe Montana in that game threw 3 interceptions, right? So it's usually the end result that has everybody raving. And at the end of the game, I think the Niners did a damn good job. Rob says voting for the Kansas City Chiefs. Cool. It'll be a good game. Thomasino, I like that one. 2 field goals, bypass inside the 30, update your training plan, Dan. And that's my point, Tom. That's exactly my point. It's that live by the sword, die by the sword mentality that traders have as well as professional coaches. And in that game, I was sitting here with people at the house going, dude, he should kick these field goals. You got to take points so you can get them. You're playing a great defense, and if they get hot, you're not getting any more chances. Kick the field goals. Didn't do it. Chose not to. And that was his plan. So the Niners adjusted defensively, but Dan Campbell kept the foot on the pedal, and it backfired on him. You got to make those adjustments, especially against a team like the 49ers. So, the parallel we'll make for all of us is in the trading world, you've got your plan in place. And your plan works until it doesn't. And if it doesn't work, you stop what you're doing, reevaluate where your problems are, and hopefully address those problems, correct them, eliminate the things you're doing poorly, focus on what you're doing right, and then steer that ship back towards the victory line as the 49ers did. Now, the good thing with the 49ers and any professional football team is they've got dozens of coaches that are getting paid millions of dollars to make these decisions, so it's not all on you. I would say that our job is harder than an NFL coach because it's all on you. Some people argue that basketball is tougher than golf. I don't know about that. Golf, it's all about you and your choices. You don't have a superstar that can bail you out if you're not having a good day. If you're not having a good day, it's over. And the same thing in trading. When we have a bad day, it's all on us. And those problems can manifest and get worse and worse and worse. And next time we blow our account. It'd be great if we were all part of a trading team, right? So if I have a crappy day, Tom has a great day, balances out my failures. And as a collective team, we work together to, be better. And I think that's why I love professional sports, just seeing how in the face of adversity, like we had on yesterday's game, that was in the NFC Championship game. That's the largest comeback ever by a football team. Pretty impressive for a quarterback that everybody says can't do it. He's not good. I don't know if you guys saw, she's one of the executives for the Oakland Raiders, or maybe a former executive. And she said during Wild Card Weekend, she goes, we have 8 teams playing football this weekend, and we have 7 elite quarterbacks, and Brock Purdy, which is like the ultimate slap in the face. And here he is going to the Super Bowl. So congratulations to Brock Purdy and all the 49ers. You can see the love that these guys have for each other and how they want to fight as a team. So great weekend. Of course, y'all know that I am, of course, a 49ers fan, so it was great for me, and I get one more game, while all of you that are fans of any other team don't get a game. Oh, other than the Kansas City Chiefs, don't get another game. They got lucky on some plays, but I would argue so did Detroit. There were a couple plays where they got lucky as well. So luck is definitely a place in professional sports. Luck is absolutely a part of what we do as traders, but it's about when I watch the game and I watch things like this, I just kind of keep tying it back to trading. And I kept saying at my party, the Niners are a second half team. They make great adjustments and they come back stronger in the second half. They will find out what they did and they will move. Yeah. Yeah, definitely did, tell Messina. They shut her up real quick. I'd like to see a follow-up interview with her. We all have to bounce back at some point. Agreed. If you go back 4 years, George Kittle was on the sidelines when we lost to the Kansas City Chiefs the last time due to coaching errors, right? Our coaches made the bad mistakes. George Kittle's on the sidelines going, I will be back here, and I will be back here with a vengeance, and now they're back in the Super Bowl. So I'm very excited to see what happens in a couple of weeks. I'm sure some of you will be cheering against my team or for my team or just not even watching the game overall. Yeah, they're playing in Vegas. At least it's a dome, so there's no rain or bad weather, so I don't have to worry about Brock Purdy dropping the ball at all. Let's see. What else do we got here? A lot of great quarterbacks come in the mid-major and secondary schools. He did great at Iowa State. Set all these records. I just like the fact that when all the scouts said, he ain't going to make it. What's the guy from Alabama? Nick Saban. Told him his hands are too small. He's not very quick. He's not a good passer. And here he is at an elite level playing with the best players in the world and winning. That's a testament to hard work and faith and believing in yourself and, of course, believing in your teammates around you. And there's a lot of players that have that same sort of edginess to them and believe in themselves when everybody says you cannot do it. Let's see what else I have in here. I've got a bunch of comments coming through. So I'll make sure I got those. Exactly. It was a censored vengeance. They did beep that part out. So let's go into that catch off the face mask was one of the best things I've ever seen. That was so awesome. So I do love it. All right, let's go to our markets. We'll just run through some of this stuff. I made no trades today. Nothing to do with being hungover or anything like that. I just was busy working on some other stuff. So I just watched mine. I actually was very close to buying selling some calls against my silver position, but I did not. Let's start with crude oil. So as we know, crude oil had that nice breakout. We talked about it coming back into this area-ish of supply, which it kind of ran right up into it and then pulled back. So we had a nice sell-off today, 1.58% in crude oil today, but I don't think that's, that significant. I know if you're long oil, it's not a good deal, but I do think that 76.18, which is our breakout point, I do think that will actually act as a demand zone and kind of psychologically it'll stop there and then we'll start to move back up. So let's see what happens tomorrow if that does in fact hold and move our crude oil back to the upside. Next on your list, back to charts. Is there any daily, weekly shooting stars still working? I'll bring them up here in a sec, Skilled. I didn't run my filter today either. I would like to have run my filters, but I just didn't have time today. I'm scrambled just to get this show started right on time. Dollar index, as you can see here, unchanged. So while it was exciting for the first part of this year in January, it was looking great to the upside for the dollar. Now all of a sudden, just gone flat for 2+ weeks. So nothing here. It's exciting at all, noteworthy, or anything to speak about here on the dollar index. I do have that 103.25 mark-ish. Let me make this a whole number here because I don't like when we have decimal points on this index. So we're going to go 25, go to the quarter, as David Warner would say. Go to the quarters. So that's my my kind of line to be concerned with. If we close below that 103.25 mark on the Dixie, then I would expect that to start to move to the downside here. Right now, I do expect it to move to the upside, just a matter of waiting for it to break higher. And again, we got some supply zones up ahead on dollar index as well. Here's your 10-year. So you actually had a down day today for the 10-year. Even though we've got this thing trending, it's been trending up since late December. We're rolling over a little bit right now. We are right near an area of interest for me anyway, which is the lowest point that it's reached in about the last 6 trading sessions. And we breached it today. We just tiptoed right below those lows. You can see the low that was established on the 18th. Let me zoom in here. The low we established on January 18th, we came back and we hit that again on the 22nd. We came real close on the 23rd, the 24th. Today, Came down, actually broke below, but we didn't close there. So keep your eye on this as well. That's at 4.072% for that 10-year. Even if it broke this, it would still technically be in an uptrend because it's making these higher lows. But, you know, the deeper this pulls back, the weaker that's going to get and ultimately break that uptrend. So there we go. Gold. Chart doesn't really help us too much from a technical perspective. Again, since that late December sell-off where it peaked out and did almost a double top, it's just been selling off ever since. I still kind of have this belief that we will sell. Oh, NJ, put that one back in there. I was just reading your McDonald's comment. Put it back in there. I'll get to it. Whatever's in the chat, I will get to it and read through. Just make sure if it's something specifically directed at me, if you put question marks, it makes it easy to know that that's a question directed at me. A lot of times you guys have conversations, which I love that you have conversations in chat. It's great. But if it's something directly to me, just let me know by putting question marks before it. Yeah. Vegas says, you know what they say about small hands, guys? They wear big shoes. I don't know. No, small gloves. All right, let's go. So that was your gold. Let me bring up SLV here because SLV had a similar chart, but a much more pronounced gap. That's not silver. There's your pronounced gap. So on SLV, you had the gap and go, whereas gold rallied higher and then gave up those gains. And I'll bring up both to make them apples to apples here. I'll bring up SLV and GLD. SLV up 1.68%. If we get to that 2150, then I'll probably look to sell those 2250 calls. I'm just going to kind of let it run here a little bit. You know, I'm feeling optimistic. I'm glad to see this thing move to the upside. Again, I still have quite a bit of silver. I made the mistake personally of not selling some more puts against silver because I would like to. I think silver in the intermediate to longer term is going to be moving to the upside. So I meant to sell some more puts, but I didn't. Now I just have calls to sell against my position as we rally up here. So we get a little bit higher. I will look to be selling some calls against it, probably at the 2250, but I'll let you know and evaluate once we get there. All right, let's keep going. We're almost at the podium. S&P 500 breakout to the upside, gain of 0.78% on the day today. Nice move up, again, breaking to all-time highs. Is that shooting star still intact? I would argue that it is. You could go to these lows right here. I don't know why that line was there. But now it's just becoming a moot point. It's money left on the table if you're waiting for it to come all the way back down to that. Now, if you look at the 5-minute here, there's your exciting part. Right around noon, you had that nice surge to the upside, right? That was really the main catalyst. We were kind of slowly, mildly up on the day. And here's the same thing for the NASDAQ, which is up 1.02%, right? Mildly for the upside, and all of a sudden we surge right at 12 noon. I'll bring up some more info on that in just a second. Let's go here to your economic calendar. And first thing people ask is, well, was that because of economic data for the U.S.? No, you had nothing here for the U.S. markets that was pertinent to that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. There's one other thing that was funny. So I'm shifting here, but you know, it's kind of funny. You guys, this picture right here, I wanted to use this one, but what's funny is AI drew his number is 88. And I was like, wait a minute. I don't think that is number 88. No, number 88 is this guy named Jake Tongs. That different altogether. Jake is a white dude, and we're clearly off. So I decided we'll probably not stick with that one. We're gonna go. Maybe I'll just use this one here. This is the better one. Celebrate with me at Candlestick. All right. Anyway, back to my regular scheduled program. So big surge up there, and all these indexes had that. Chris says, off the Treasury news. Well, it shows you that I'm not paying attention to the market right at the last hour and a half of the day because I didn't see it. Didn't pay attention to it. So I'll have my homework this evening and get all caught up on that one. Let's see, popcorn trade. Okay, I'll go check that one out. I will check that one out. And I got podium time. Silver medal. Russell 2000. Here's your daily. All right. All right, Tongues is an odd name. I thought that was a strange one. All right, so we mentioned this on, I think it was Friday's show, where I said, you've got these three indexes, the S&P, NASDAQ, and the Dow, all kind of breaking to all-time highs here, and the Russell was lagging. And I was like, either the Russell is going to all of a sudden have a big surge to the upside and be your bigger percent gainer to catch up ground, but it didn't. Here you go, 1.72%. So you're almost double what the NASDAQ did. You're over double what the S&P did, and maybe that's playing that catch-up game for the Russell. We'll see if that continues as these markets continue to surge higher. But here's your all-time high for the Russell is a long way off from where these other indexes are. Notice NASDAQ is well above all-time highs, and here you had Actually, S&P is well above all-time highs. NASDAQ is now approaching those again. It's all-time closing high for the NASDAQ. So all in all, great day. The real story is Bitcoin, which got that big move down starting back in early January. Here we are near the tail end, and all of a sudden it's starting to bounce back up. Again, I made that point when we talked about the ETFs getting approved. I said, buy the rumors, sell the news. That ETF news, once it's out there, wait for it to pull back. I thought we'd get a little bit deeper. Again, I have that 38,200 line drawn there. We got pretty darn close. We got real close to that one, as you can see. That low point being 38,540. So it was about $300 off from the low price that I was anticipating. Did not buy any more at that level, and here we are ripping to the upside. We're right at supply as we speak on Bitcoin as well, but not a strong supply level. So I do think we will probably be charging forward and getting near those all-time highs, particularly as we get near April. As you guys remember, April is the halving incident, right? We're going to have the halving at the end of April, early May. Let's see. Yeah, I know. At least it's tough when you look at a chart like this on Bitcoin. When you see this pull back here, particularly after that giant rally up, part of you has to be a little skeptical and say, you know what, it could go a lot lower. Now, granted, it did sell off a pretty good percentage. I'll go from those peaks that we see right there to those lows right there. You had Bitcoin falling 21%, almost 22%. Not a bad deal. Almost right down to my demand zone, but didn't quite make it there. Yep, there you go. That's what you have the whole zone. So what Margaret's saying is that gap demand zone. I had that line down at the bottom. If you wanted to do it more of a zone, you're looking at that. And in fact, if you do it that way, you would have been it, right? So yes, we did come off of that demand zone. I was just looking at the very lowest end of that demand zone was where I was looking at, since I'm not using the OTA nomenclature on this program, kind of keeping it simple, right? All right, let's go. That's it. That's all I had for the top 7 markets top 8 markets out there for today. Let me go into some popcorn trades of the day. And normally when I do popcorn trades of the day, which we are going to have tomorrow, I'll show you that on the earnings calendar here. Actually, tomorrow night we're going to have those. Popcorn trades of the day typically are those that ahead of time are so dramatic they're going to have an impact. So obviously we have Microsoft and Google reporting tomorrow night, but there's obviously some that happen on a regular basis that can move a lot. So what are those? Well, let's go look at SMCI, super microcomputers. So based off what you mentioned, so market profits, is this, so Margaret, you said, what do you think it will do for AMD? Just get me up to speed on it, Lisa, because I don't follow this one. Did AMD purchase this? Is this an acquisition or a merger piece for AMD? I'm curious what the deals are going to be with these two, because I don't know the story behind that. Now, keep in mind, Jim Cramer, for all his faults, and a lot of times I think he's a complete donkey, he does say some things that are pretty profound, and this is one of them. He says, when something goes parabolic, take your profits and move on. In this case, this super microcomputer, I don't know what the news is. I don't know what they've done or what they've merged or acquisition and new developments, whatever, up almost 63% in the last 2 weeks. That's a parabolic move. And does that mean that this is over? Does it mean that it's going to come crashing back down? No, not necessarily. But the probability is pretty high that you're going to get a corrective phase here, particularly if you had elevated volume during that move, which we in fact did have quite a bit. Lisa says, it's really not the same as AMD. Okay, so it's a competing company. I got it. The way I thought it may have been like a merger acquisitions. So they had earnings again tonight. They are up another 8.95% on this one. Man, let's see, where are we at right now? We're at 540. So we're right up here where this top line is, and I will draw a line across that for you guys. I don't know enough about them to want to make that trade. My gut, just the way that I look at this, is after something went parabolic. You guys all know the phrase we talked about with Bitcoin, which is buy the rumor, sell the news, right? That one's pretty easy. I look at this chart, and the fact that it's sitting at 540, the gunslinger in me says short it. It says buy puts on that open tomorrow. Once the premium's just gotten evaporated out of these things, if it keeps rallying up tomorrow, buy some puts for about 90 days. That's the gunslinger in me, and I would buy them out of the money. Like if in this case, you look at this chart, it's right at 540 right now. Go out 30 days and buy the 400 puts, which would be just cheap as can be. I don't have the option chain in front of you, and I'm sure it's going to be very cheap for the 400s. Granted, it's a $400 stock, so that's going to be the cost. But I think that you're going to get something that it'll probably have a pretty big pullback here based off earnings. Of course, I know nothing about the company, so that's just looking off of psychology of market moves. In this case, you got a parabolic move that's just gone crazy to the upside, off the heels of earnings announcements as well, and you're up another 9% in after hours. So I made a little note right here on my notepad to check this one out for tomorrow morning and see what the option liquidity looks like, and maybe I'll go in my gamble account and buy some puts here to put my money where my mouth is. Let's see. What else we got? Where will Bitcoin be in April? Personally, Chio, I think we're going to be higher. I look at the price of Bitcoin right now, and I'm not so concerned about where it's going to be in April, honestly. Everybody here knows I'm not going to do anything with my Bitcoin until November of 2025. So I don't care where it's going to be. My belief is it's going to slowly kind of keep creeping back up. Because now we have the doorway has been open to, in my opinion, institutional adoption. Companies can now buy a proxy for Bitcoin, meaning they could go out and buy these Bitcoin ETFs and technically hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Of course, some of them will probably go and buy Bitcoin directly, but it's safer to go through ETFs for them because of the insurance side of things. So I think you're going to see demand increase slowly but surely from an institutional perspective for Bitcoin. Remember, most of this is driven off of retail investors. Most of crypto right now is still driven off of retail investors. As institutions get more and more involved, that's big money, right? If I can get Apple, who's got billions of dollars in cash right now, to just put in, let's say, 2% of their portfolio into Bitcoin, now you're talking, what, $1 billion come in? I mean, it's crazy how much money they have in cash right now. So I think institutional adoption is going to slowly push this up. And then once we get to the elections this year, I believe that you're going to see one of the talking platforms will be digital assets. And it's all going to be about regulating them, which I'm fine with. But again, it's, what are the rules going to be in place for those? And to me, that's when we'll really see the big moves up. Let's see. Let's go talk to Merlin. For a nice trade, show the oil chart and how it gapped right into supply on the Sunday futures open and then just tumbled down. And sure, go crude oil. Come on, CL. Let's go here to let's do a 15-minute time frame, and I'll get this back to a normal piece. Where back did you go on that one? There you go. So there's your big sell-off that happened on the 30th of December. Right, you had that rally up in crude, aggressive move out. That's your obvious overhead supply zone. And then if you look at what happened today, we gapped right up into it and sold off from it. So yeah, great trade setup. This is where, Skilled, it's a little challenging for me because I'm watching so many things, and there'll go periods where I'm not looking at the intraday charts of crude oil, or I'm looking at silver, or I'm looking at wheat or soybeans, or I'm looking at Bitcoin, and I'm not looking at the euro. So there's so many things to look at. I think those of you that have a narrow focus have a competitive advantage. You got some things in your favor, and you have some things that are going against you. Number one is, if you're someone who trades crude oil all the time, you would have known this, you would have seen this, no question, you would have been making this trade and gone short on that gap up in that overhead supply. However, if you're just focusing on crude oil, you're now waiting for very specific opportunities, and there may go days where you don't trade. Which is why I think it's important to have a basket of things to trade. 5, 10 different things. I would say at least 10 in different market segments. If you're a Forex trader, you're kind of limited, right? You're just going to go, I'll trade all the majors against the dollar, and I'll trade some cross pairs. If you're an equities trader, I think you have a little more flexibility because obviously you have all the stocks that are out there, plus you have all these ETFs, so you can pretty much get into anything. Futures traders, I would definitely do some bond products, some commodities, some interest rate, some indexes, and spread it around that way. But have a few things. I think that that's cool. Don and I are going to make a wager on that one, I'm sure. We'll make a wager. He's a Kansas City fan. I'm a San Fran fan. We'll have it out. We'll do some kind of wager between the two of us for sure. So yeah, Skilled, I think that when you have too broad of a focus, which is my problem as a trader, because I like to look at everything, I don't focus on everything every day. So, that's why I've created my watch list up here, where I usually am looking at crude oil, but I wasn't looking at it this morning, especially not that gap up into the overhead supply that it hit going way back over here. Unfortunately. But yeah, great trade. Phenomenal, actually. What are your thoughts on if the government comes in a decentralized crypto? So let me ask that question again. Are you saying, what are my thoughts on if the government comes in and creates its own decentralized cryptocurrency? Like a central bank digital currency? You can't have that. So what the government will do is come in with a central bank digital currency, but it will not be decentralized. It will be a centralized, right? Which makes the digital dollar no different than what it is today. They can print as much as they want, right? Just because they create a digital asset, like we'll call it, I don't know, what do we call it? We'll call it Fed bucks, right? Let's just say that's what the new name of our currency is going to be, Fed bucks, and it's a digital dollar. Depending on how they set it up, they can make an infinite amount and continue to make as much as they want, or remove it from supply. They can do the exact same thing they do with US dollars. And it's all centrally controlled. So it's nothing. It's really not that exciting. It really just is an extension of what they're currently doing into a digital world. Would they go and bring in a third-party central bank digital currency, which is called a synthetic, called an SCBDC, or a synthetic central bank digital currency? That would be somebody like Ripple now running that currency, but the Fed having a say in what goes on. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if anything, the Fed's going to do its own. Can I get Fed bucks at a drive-through? Probably. You won't have to go to a drive-through. It'll all be on your phone. Everything will be in some digital format. There will be no physical. You won't need to have your billfold to carry physical money anymore. It's all going to be on some app on your phone, and that's the way it's all going to be done. Better make a case of Monster versus. Is that his thing, GS? He's a Monster Energy guy. All right. I'll reach out to him. We'll go out and see what he got. So I think that this is going to be one of the major talking points for our elections in 2024 is going to be central bank digital currency. I'm torn, and I want to do a special show on CBDCs for us a little bit later on in the year, guys. I want to see how these guys are positioning themselves. You've obviously heard Donald Trump's position is no way under my rule will there be a central bank digital currency. Okay, fine. We'll see what it is under the different administrations. And then we'll talk about the pros and the cons of a CBDC. I can make arguments for both. And personally, I'm kind of straddling the fence right now on, well, I could see having one. And then again, my privacy, side of me says, I don't want it. I don't want anybody tracking me or controlling what I do. So there's definitely some good and bad points with the CBDC. I love it from an efficiency perspective, a transparency perspective, a cleanliness perspective. But yeah, the control of Big Brother, a little too much for me. But yeah, I think you'll get a bunch of pushback, and we're going to have to wait for a central bank digital currency. Remember, there's only 3 countries right now that have a central bank digital currency, fully implemented, and it's not China. It's the Bahamas, is it Zaire? No, or Zimbabwe. It's some with a Z, Nigeria, and Jamaica are the only 3. China is implementing one on a pilot basis, but they're rolling it out in phases. At some point, they will probably have a full central bank digital currency there because it's just total control. Is physical money not expensive to create and maintain? It's very expensive, and that's one of the reasons why the government would love it. They spend $1 billion a year, a billion with a B, to create money. Just to create the printing presses and the employees and security, all that stuff is $1 billion a year just to make money. If we remove that, because you will no longer need anything like that, you could probably manage the entire money supply of the United States of America, actually the globe for that matter, with a room of maybe 5 people. Let's say they each get $200,000 a year. I got $1 million. I take it from $1 billion a year to $1 million a year. If we take that $999 million savings and put it towards government-funded projects or things that will help the United States, infrastructure, education, I'm all for that. I'm absolutely all for that. But yes, physical money, very expensive. Digital money, not expensive at all. You just simply change a piece of code. Boom, you got all the money you need. So it makes it no different than current. Cyber crimes are also a big problem. Yes, and that will probably get more and more significant. Depending on the central bank digital currency. If we have a currency that's backed by the government, and the government is the one controlling it all, my question would be, what's the security of that? because now you're going to get the best hackers in the world going after their what's called a consensus mechanism, right? The consensus mechanism is how do we monitor every transaction and make sure it's real, that the crypto is real, and that's all going to be controlled by a centralized entity. It runs off of an encryption mechanism. Bitcoin uses SHA-256. Cardano uses Ouroboros. Ethereum uses ETH-hash. These are all encryption mechanisms. And if those encryption mechanisms get broken, then what happens to the money? Does it just disappear? Can these thieves just manufacture as much money as they want? That is a very real concern, which is why I think our central banks have been slow to adopt a central bank digital currency. And I think rightfully so. There is that worry that they could be hacked, that somebody might crack the encryption mechanism, and all of a sudden they're literally just printing digital money as much as they want, anytime they want. Kind of crazy. Will that do anything to inflation, having the Fed buy Fed bucks? No. Remember, Echo, it'd be just the same thing as having physical dollars. They're just printing. There's more money in circulation. So instead of having physical dollars, dollar bills, it would all be digital. Imagine those numbers are exactly the same. So when they increase money supply by $5 trillion, they just do it digitally as opposed to printing $5 trillion worth of new money. So it would do the exact same thing. It would do the exact same thing that our physical dollars do. It just would be faster and easier for the government to control it. USDT works and can solve that problem. USDT does, but Tether has some significant problems on the back end. We can talk about stablecoins and the structure of how they work. I wouldn't trust Tether with a 10-foot pole. Tether is obfuscate is a word I like to use. Obfuscate, where you kind of hide the facts of what you're really doing. You don't really want people to see what you're doing. And they are not very transparent with their bond holdings in USDT. I would prefer something like USDC, which is backed and audited by US dollars and US government bonds. That makes it, for me, a better stable coin that's available. They'll use the savings, creating more bureaucracy. Probably. You're probably right there. Sad. Can't wait for Costco to start selling. Costco selling Bitcoin. Now that will be a new thing. Guys, be all careful for all those scammers out there selling Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we're good. Got some good questions. I didn't see. Let me look real quick. I didn't get a chance to go to YouTube. I've been just ridiculously busy. My apologies. It's hoping this project will get done here relatively soon, so I can get back to focusing on my trading, because it's just I haven't been able to trade as much as I want, and that's frustrating to me. I definitely have positions open. I got like 10 positions open, but I like to be a little bit more glued to what's going on. Let's see. So there was talk about Mamon was talking about that gap on the dollar index around 106.50. Yeah, I've talked about the dollar and the dollar index. Let's go look at that Dixie. And here is your 30-minute. We'll go to a daily time frame. And he's referencing this little gap, little tiny guy right up here, which, is right, obviously would be a major magnet towards price, but it's also in an area that's been hit a few times. If I was to put stair steps as to where I think this dollar index is going to go and have its major challenges, first one's going to be right around 104.50. I actually like this 104.60, but I'm going to push it a little bit higher to 105.80, and then you got the gaps higher above it. So, those are the steps I'm looking at for the dollar index at this point. And again, I do believe we're going to move up in the dollar, just because I think the downtrend line is broken, and now all of a sudden we're forming an uptrend. I'm going to go with that trend until I'm proven wrong. Yeah, I know they sell gold, Oliver. Kind of funny in my opinion that they're selling gold, but whatever. I collect some gold coins. I actually looked to see about buying one of them, but of course they were sold out. Anyway, what else do you guys want to discuss today? Anything else for a wrap up? I'm at a 40-minute show, so I guess I could start to wrap up here. I'm looking at different questions that maybe I didn't get to. No. Oh yeah, someone asked me my thoughts on Jamie Dimon. Look, I've already gotten into it. He's a brilliant guy. He's obviously didn't get to his position at JP Morgan because he was stupid. He's a very intelligent guy. However, he's trying to protect his own firm right now by going anti-crypto. That's just, when you have a threat to your business, you go after it and you try to attack that threat. In this case, crypto represents a threat to the financial system. It just does. And as far as crypto goes, I don't usually run through these markets and talk a lot about crypto, but you can see here today, there we go. You do have some nice gains. A lot of these, you see things like I talk about, like Render, Solana is one of my primary holdings. Same with Polkadot. You are seeing a nice surge up on a lot of these cryptos out there today, particularly some big volume on Polkadot today. That's great on Kraken. But it's so depending on the day. Out of my big list here, I've got like 5 that are down. The rest are all up today. But we've had just a nice rally in Bitcoin over the last 48 hours, and you can see here actually longer than that. You have some nice moves up here going all the way back into Friday's session. But all in all, I'm still bullish long term, and I think as Bitcoin goes, it will bring everything else up with it, except those shit coins that you should leave alone anyway. Let's see. Tom says, fun fact of Delaware, they're fighting Blue Hens. Have had 2 Super Bowl quarterbacks, Rich Gannon and Joe Flacco. USC has 0. Wow. That is interesting. Iowa State. Yeah, it's got to be the first one for Iowa State. I mean, people are like, I hate the 49ers, and I get it because, they've been there so many times over the years. But I don't know how you can't cheer for Brock Purdy. Patrick Mahomes, as brilliant as he is, as great as he is, he's starting to getting that hatred like a Tom Brady. Like, I'm sick of this guy. All he does is win. Give me Brock Purdy, the guy that nobody said was going to win. I want to cheer for that guy, and I'm glad he's on my team. What's my opinion of Cardano? I like Cardano. Cardano is one of the slower projects, though. So I like the Cardano community. They're like Apple fans. Someone who loves Apple will love Apple until they are, dead and gone. They will support them no matter what happens, what Apple does. Same thing with Cardano. The Cardano community is fanatical. They're a rabid community. They support each other, but they do have a lot of people who are building and developing projects. The thing I don't like about Cardano is it feels like the development is rather slow. Some of these other projects, they're much more inclined to rush and make a lot of mistakes along the way to get to market first, whereas Cardano is a lot of academics, where they go through academic reports and releases and evaluation to see if we make these changes, what might be the impacts, and then let's bounce it around. It just takes some time. So I do own Cardano. I like Charles Hoskinson. I think he's one of the greatest spokesmen for the industry, extremely knowledgeable, but they are a slower moving project. I think it's going to take some time to get there. Let's see what else we got. What else do I have here? Oh, I went to get that. NJ, you wanted McDonald's. Make it D's. Let's go to MCD. All right, what do we got there? Right now, I would say no. He says MCD short daily. I'm actually thinking buying McDonald's right here. I know it seems crazy, but here's why. You got a hammer formation. It formed a hammer today. Let me put my snap on here. It formed a hammer formation. The high of today is 292.76. It's had a pretty significant sell-off over the past 3 days. I'll go from peak to trough here so you can see what it sold off. It down almost 4.5% in 3 days. Now it closed. It's currently down 3.22%. So this isn't exactly a big pullback, but momentum, the slingshot effect of price right now, and you're coming into this demand zone that goes back to January 8th, although it's not strong, I'd be inclined to look at this as a buying opportunity. That one is where yeah, exactly. Lisa says an MCD, nice hammer at the bottom there. I agree. I think that is a potential buy point, and it's hard to bet against McDonald's, but they've had. This is where you really wanted to be buying, and of course, it's all hindsight. When you see this massive collapse here at McDonald's, where it went from over $300 all the way down to $240, well, that's buying at a discount. Now, this most recent pullback, not really much of a discount, but it is in a demand and it's a hammer formation, so I'd be more inclined to go along on that one. Earnings on McDonald's is going to be on February 5th. So you've got that not next week, but the week after. I think Monday of next week. NVIDIA for Mimi. All right, here's your NVIDIA chart. It's the same thing. You're like, when will it end? When will we get a pullback in NVIDIA? I thought maybe we'd see a little one here with that, one little red candle. Just literally didn't even make a new low. It's just incredible. Look, I love NVIDIA. I love what they do. I love where they're going. A thing I just can't chase. So I'm going to end up missing the boat here. And, knowing that it was at $480 on January 3rd, and now we're at $630, it's really hard for me to buy it. And it's unfortunate because I'm going to miss this whole thing. And I know Big Ev and some of you others own NVIDIA. Congrats. A 31% move up for the month of January. Unbelievable. And we're not done. I mean, NVIDIA is just absolutely killing it. I've got a friend of mine, he works at NVIDIA, and those stock options are making him a very, very happy man. So, everything works until it doesn't. And in this picture here, It feels like NVIDIA needs to have a pullback just because it's moved too far too fast. But, how do you argue a trend like this? I mean, this is one of the best looking charts you'll ever see. Yes, it had some big pullbacks here in 2022, but it has just been ripping. And Larry, has been consistently talking about how NVIDIA is the leader and going to be a leader. He was talking about that back here in 2016. Trust me, I kick myself for not listening to Larry back here. He was on Power Trading Radio Show in July of 2015. Excuse me, $6. Now you're at 620. Damn it, and up another 1.5% in after hours. It's at 632. So, do you think go down? I like what Rob says here. Exhaustion till it's not anymore, and this thing will keep going until people stop buying it. I know you're like, wow. Fantastic advice, Merlin. That's the fact. Everyone is just pumping NVIDIA right now because of its AI, right? They are the leader. They got the best chips. They are the absolute, dominant one. Now, I talked to a friend of mine in the industry, and he did not know this. And I was like, what percentage of the chips that NVIDIA uses to create their chip, what percentage of those chips come from Taiwan Semiconductor? And it was like, I forgot now, I want to cite the numbers. I think it was 93% or 90% of their chips come from Taiwan Semiconductor. And I said, look, one disruption, one issue, one conflict with Taiwan Semiconductor. If you guys hear that there's a war going on, like the U.S. is now defending Taiwan and China's going after Taiwan, if that breaks out, the first thing I'm going to short with every penny I have, NVIDIA. Absolutely, because their business is done. If they don't get chips from Taiwan Semiconductor, they're over for now. Now they're building Taiwan Semiconductor chips in the U.S. Faculty or facilities in the U.S. That change can't come soon enough because our dependence on Taiwan Semiconductor is just beyond compare for a lot of these tech firms. So I'll tell you, if we hear about any war going on in Taiwan, drop what you're doing and just start buying puts, as many as you can on NVIDIA. It'll be crazy how quickly that thing falls because over 90% of their chips come from one place, and if there's war, they got no business. You can't sell. Can you short Bitcoin ETFs? No, you can't. So what's interesting is the new spot ones you cannot short yet. You might at some point, and you also have no options on them, but you do on BITO. So BITO is the futures ETF, right? So you can short BITO. You can also, there's options on this ETF as well. So that's a good thing. But right now we don't have the shorting ability on those new 11 ETFs that were created. Do you think Bitcoin halving will increase demand in the latest generation GPUs? Good question. I don't. I don't think that the modern GPUs, they pale in comparison to an ASIC miner. So anybody that's going to try to mine Bitcoin, they're not using GPUs. They'll mine something else, most likely an Ethereum-based product. I don't see the demand for GPUs increasing. I actually think it will decrease because of the specificity of an ASIC miner and the speed at which those ASIC miners function. Let's see. Great to have a plan ahead of this terrible. I know, but you have to look at who is using NVIDIA. Meta buying buku dollars worth of NVIDIA. Yep. Yeah, and look, don't get me wrong, Margaret and Lisa, I'm not wishing that there's a conflict. I'm just saying, if you're an engineer, you have to look at where's your single biggest point of failure, right? If I'm building a new car, let's say I want to create the Merlin. It probably already exists, but I want to create the Merlin car. And as I build that, it's important for me to know that if any part of my supply chain goes down, what are my alternative sources? So right now, if you're NVIDIA, knowing I get 90+% of my chips from one company that's in a very potential conflict area, that's a problem, right? That I need to figure out. That's the biggest vulnerability, in my opinion, to NVIDIA right now is Taiwan Semiconductor. Now, if it was Mexican Semiconductor, I'd have not a worry in the world. I don't think Mexico is going to want to go to war with anybody. It's fine, but Taiwan is, a sovereign country, but China's saying it's ours. Yeah, could be problems there. Let's hope nothing happens to it, but if you are holding long-term NVIDIA, just you got to keep that in the back of your mind. It's in my opinion, the single biggest point of failure at this point. Tom's NVIDIA had NVIDIA has great Marcom. They tie into every hype and that comes along. Yes, Metaverse. Yep. They're a Chinese bomb away from exactly. And part of me Obviously, as a human being, I don't ever want to see conflict. Let's just resolve things peacefully. We can solve every problem on earth peacefully. That we can do. As a trader, I'm like, conflict. Go ahead, because I know exactly my game plan for that one. It's just open up all my trading applications and just hit short NVIDIA. Short, or start buying puts like crazy. There you go. Easy. Easy peasy. No problem, Mimi. All right, guys, let me wrap up here. I didn't mean to do another hour show. We will look at two things here. Number one, I want to take you a peek to your economic calendar, and then I'm going to also show you the earnings calendar. Of course, I mentioned tomorrow is a monstrous day. Not the trading day itself, but the popcorn trade of the day. So, as you guys know, I talk about the popcorn trade of the day. What that means is we are going to see two companies report earnings, and they are going to be biggies. Popcorn trade of the day, we start off with Microsoft. That's aftermarket close. So all the names I'm going to read right now are aftermarket close, and these are the big ones. You've got Starbucks, you've got Google or Alphabet, you have AMD, and you also have Microsoft. Microsoft's still a $3 trillion market cap, like crazy. It's that big, but remember, they're one of the major components of the NASDAQ 100. That's a biggie. Now, these companies report before market opens tomorrow. Pfizer, GM, you've got Marathon Petroleum and a few others on this list. I think there's some that I should mention. You have UPS, you have, Oh, in aftermarket, you also have Electronic Arts and Skyworks. Oh, God, Skyworks. Oh, that one will forever haunt my existence, is Skyworks. Economic calendar for tomorrow. Here's what you got cooking. You have the S&P Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index. So for those of you looking at real estate, that'll be an interesting one to see what the numbers have looked like, and are we consistently seeing growth in the real estate market. Remember, we've seen it decline significantly, went negative, showing a contraction housing market, now all of a sudden surging to the upside. So, okay, all right, it's feeling good for the housing market yet again, and all you realtors and mortgage brokers, you're loving that. Let's see, you also have HPI data itself, you have consumer confidence. Our first piece of jobs data for the month of January, it's going to be the JOLTS job openings. We also have more pieces later on in the week, but that's it for the U.S. And then if you're trading the Australian dollar, you have a lot of consumer price index numbers, which could be inflationary, and that's pretty much it for your markets for tomorrow. You see a lot of stuff on there, but really the U.S. is all about the job openings and the Case-Shiller Composite 20 Home Price Index. And that, my friends, is it. Michael says AMD is overbought, which lower last earnings report and was down today to turn green. I looked at AMD. We talked about AMD eating Intel's lunch. Their earnings, let's see, will be tomorrow, and so it's AMD that's going to be aftermarket close tomorrow. Yep. I won't touch that one until tomorrow. Again, you have that parabolic move. All chip makers have been doing absolutely fantastic, but if you look at the chart of AMD from November, I mean, this is really just, it looks like a cryptocurrency. 98% gain. Since their last earnings report, I definitely would expect to pull back here, but I'm not going to step in front of that freight train. It's just moving way too fast to the upside. As Chio says, don't forget to hit that like button. I always appreciate that. If you guys have something you want me to discuss tomorrow, you can send your questions in. I probably won't discuss it tomorrow because I'm going to have John Rowland on the program tomorrow. I know we have a lot of questions about natural gas, which has been falling like a freaking rock right now. It's crazy. Back down to $2 on natural gas. We'll see what John has to say about that. If you have any questions either for me or John Rowland, send them in. TraderMerlin@gmail.com is what you see on your screen there. You can send them in there and we'll get it all prepped for the show. The sooner you send in questions, the more time I have to prep and get things ready. So send them in sooner rather than later. That said, have a fantastic remainder of your day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow with John Rowland of barchart.com. Take care.